Welcome to Science Solved. I am Nicole and I will be talking about the myths and questions surrounding GMOs. So firstly, what are GMOs? The abbreviation GMOs means genetically modified organisms. These can be used for both medical and agricultural purposes. An example of medical use of GMOs is the production of insulin by genetically modified yeasts. Genetically modified yeast can also be used to produce the recombinant hepatitis B vaccine. Medical uses, such as the two examples I have talked about, are widely accepted. Genetic modification of the DNA of human embryos which are to be implanted in the womb is still considered unethical. In this video, I will focus more on the agricultural uses of GMOs, which are still widely discussed and very controversial. Humans have been making genetically modified organisms through traditional methods for a very long time. This is done by choosing the individuals with best traits and then using them to reproduce. Some examples are the cultivated variations of tomatoes, such as, for example, cherry tomatoes, and the production of different types of cows, which are either suited for their meat or for better production of milk. However, these traditional methods take a very long time to produce desired traits, and so new methods are required. Thus, genetic engineering has been developed since the 1970s to help make genetically modified organisms in a more efficient and more selective way. To better explain genetic engineering, I will firstly explain what a gene is. The information coding for an individual is present inside the DNA, which is found in every cell in the body. The DNA contains several codes to make different proteins, which all have their specific functions. These codes for the proteins are what we call genes. So these are the things that are edited when we have genetic engineering or genetic modification. Genetic engineering requires 4 steps, which are identification, copying, inserting, and then finally growing. First, identification of a desired gene is required, and this gene usually gives a good trait that we desire for another organism, such as resistance to herbicides or to insect parasites. This gene can also enrich the plant with another vitamin, so it makes that plant produce a higher amount of the vitamin. The desired gene is then copied and inserted into the DNA of the plant or the agricultural crop that we're going to use and grow. The organism is then grown, and eventually it will produce the desired protein from that gene, and it will have the characteristic that we want it to have. A more recent technology is genetic engineering, where CRISPR, which is a protein, is used to modify the DNA at a very specific location. And this makes it easier and even more specific than simple identification and growing of the gene. There is a lot of controversy surrounding GM crops, such as GM plants. Many people think that they cause harm or they are toxic or unsafe to consume. This may lead to these people avoiding using and eating GMOs. But should they really be avoiding them? According to all the studies carried on GMO products, they are completely safe to consume. Then what is the reason for this controversy? Some risks which may be associated with GMOs are potential allergic reactions to them, or even gene transfer from these GMOs to our body or to bacteria which is present inside our body. However, no allergic reactions have been found from GMOs, and gene transfer has a very low chance that it actually happens. The long-term potential risks of GMOs have also been widely discussed, but a 2016 report from the National Academies of Science, Engineering and Medicine in the United States of America have found that GMOs do not have any long-term health risks higher than normal plants. It is important to note that according to the World Health Organization, GMO foods are regulated in almost every country, and those sold internationally need also to pass by certain regulations from the national authorities. These authorities perform safety assessments on these GMOs, and they take into account both human health and environmental risks to make sure that these GMOs do not have any unintended consequences. The main risks surrounding GMOs are not actually to our health, but more so to the natural environment which they grow close to. For example, the GM genes could potentially transfer to other wild plants surrounding the field where they are growing. Some beneficial insects, such as those which feed on insects which harm the plant, can also be potentially harmed by the insect-resistant GMOs. The use of widespread GMOs in many places and in very large fields also reduces the amount of diversity of the crops planted, and reducing diversity always has a negative effect on the community, because when there is less diversity, there is less resistance to, for example, environmental effects such as drought or climate change. There is also the economic component of GMOs, where, for example, some companies can have a monopoly on the market. Bayer, for example, sells large amounts of these plants which are resistant to an herbicide, which is Roundup, and they also themselves produce that herbicide. So there is a constant loop of people always needing to buy from that company. Some have also claimed that this herbicide causes cancer, and there have been even some court cases surrounding this, but a new assessment has found out that it is not, in fact, carcinogenic. There's also a significant positive side of GMOs. They can improve the agriculture and have a lot of benefits. Phillips mentions the following benefits of GMOs, such as increased crop yields, reduced costs for food and drug production, reduced need for pesticides, enhanced nutrient composition and food quality, resistance to pests and disease, and even food security. A famous example where GMOs have been very helpful is golden rice. It contains a higher amount of vitamin A, which helps prevent blindness and save the lives of several poor populations. Some scientists and people claim that GMOs are actually the future of food because they can increase food security and reduce the need for pesticides and insecticides. If used well, they can result in an improved economy and an increase in food availability. However, each new GMO has to be studied in all of its sectors, such as medical, environmental, and economical, such that it does not have any unintended consequences and it is considered safe to use. In this way, we can have an overall positive effect on agriculture. Thank you for listening to another Sci Solved episode. I am Nicole, and we'll see you in the next episode.